wicked wild, wild. Wicked wild, wicked wild, wicked wild, wild west. Jim West,
Yeah, you're heading west for tonight's Stuff People Do. Sydney's west, to be precise. To find out about life as a zookeeper, Featherdale Wildlife Park is where you're headed. It's a place that the man singing this song,
Jim West, roughneck, so go check the lawn and buy.
Hollywood star Will Smith, just happened to pop into. He made an impromptu visit a couple of weeks ago. Now, I was a kid when the park opened in 1972. Back then it was called Featherdale Farm, as I recall, but now it's Featherdale Wildlife Park. And tonight, the man who's been hanging out with the furry and feathered friends at Featherdale for 21 years, almost half its history, General Curator Chad Staples, is here. Featherdale, by the way, also happens to have the largest bird collection in Australia. Of course, that had nothing to do with Chad being here tonight. Not at all. Not at all, Chad. Well, maybe there's a little bit of self-interest there, but
Good.
Lovely to have you in the studio.
Thank you.
Thank you
Great
for
to be
coming in. Now, 21 years is a long time in one occupation in the same place.
Yep.
So how did you do anything before you were a zookeeper?
I did school. It was a crazy one. Like, I even tried a couple of jobs, I suppose, beforehand, and said to my last employer, look, I'm going to try to get a job with animals because it's a passion and, you know, I'm young enough now to try.
So what I have to ask out of curiosity, what were the previous jobs?
I started a chef's apprenticeship, which is okay. It taught me how to sort of chop fruit for animals. And the last one was actually sail making. So I learned to sew, which is a skill that's carried through, I suppose.
It's a varied career. It's a little bit different to what you ended up
It didn't
with.
last long, that one. I knew very quickly that wasn't me.
So how did you get the job at Featherdale?
Look, it was supposed to be. I was very fortunate. It's often, and it's even worse now with the industry, it can be who you know. If you're young, it really means volunteering. But I went in for a couple of interviews and grabbed it with both hands. And, you know, I was only a casual for a very short amount of time. And, you know, I've never wanted to do anything else since.
So what did you start working on back 21 years ago?
I mean, it was a very different place then. It was a little bit different structure, but I walked in as a zookeeper. And it was from the very get-go, food preparation, feeding and cleaning. The same thing I do today.
So it hasn't really changed that much in 21 years?
Oh, look, the park itself has evolved massively. You know, I was actually the last person that Bruce hired as a zookeeper. So Bruce Cabet, who started Featherdale, and it's evolved as it's needed to, because I mean, Sydney itself has just exploded. Like Western Sydney, where Featherdale was parklands and farms, and now it's this oasis in suburbia. So we've certainly got a lot more professional, and I mean, Bruce certainly cared a lot about animals, but it was a different mindset, and welfare is 100% front of mind on everything now.
So what sort of animals do you have at Featherdale?
I look just about every Australian animal you can think of. It's the largest and most diverse Australian animal collection anywhere in the world, and we're fiercely proud of that. So anything Australian you can think of is in the collection, and a few examples that are nowhere else, which is really cool.
What have you got that nobody else has got?
Look, it's some of those things. Well, as a bird person, you'll appreciate. So Australian pipits, they're nowhere else in the world, and we just bred them. Pacific gulls, another one that people just would probably look at as a big seagull, but again, a very iconic coastal bird that you can't see anywhere else.
But how do you breed a coastal bird in Western Sydney? How does that work?
Understanding what makes them a coastal bird, I suppose. And a lot of it is, I mean, they choose their habitat for a lot of different reasons. A lot of it is dietary, so you can provide that. The lucky thing is in Western Sydney, you can still cater for birds and animals from all over the country if you're smart about really knowing their mental and emotional needs. So making sure that shelters and temperatures are allowed to be replicated in Western Sydney. So if you're a migratory bird, you've got to make sure that you can heat them during winter and so forth.
I would imagine that can be a bit of a challenge in Western Sydney, especially for coastal birds, because I know it's always, you know, several degrees cooler on the coast, particularly in summer, than it is in the west.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I mean, this year we had a 47-degree day in Doonside, so it was crazy hot. But I think animals cope with it a lot better than people. Provided shade, I mean, we can do things like put on misting fans and just adding bigger water sources so that animals can get in to cool themselves off. And they actually enjoy those sort of stimulus that you can add. So if you're smart and really understand what the animal needs, you can cater to it.
And how do you learn that over time as a zookeeper? Is that purely observational, or are we talking about book learning as well?
I think it's all the above and mentors. It is such a practical industry that, I mean, I know a hell of a lot more now, but I don't know anywhere near enough. You learn something every day just by watching those animals. And if you're smart enough to realize that each day you can go in with that front of mind, you'll get taught something. It's amazing. I love it. It's that ability to sort of think about things in different ways, and the more you get to know an animal, the more they actually do try to communicate about what they need.
And how much have you learned from other keepers over the years? If you say you need mentors, I assume you're talking about other keepers.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Curators and keepers from all over the country and the globe, to be honest. Every zoo is doing something better than what you are, and all the best ideas are stolen. So you've got to be smart enough to know that even though you've done this possibly for 10 years, 20 years, doesn't mean it's the best way to do it. And so be pliable. Know that someone is expanding knowledge. If you've only got one pair of something, you've really only learned what that pair can tell you. It may not be the case for every other individual of that species. So it's important to always think of that.
How do you do that though when you've got limited space at a zoo, and if you obviously want to have a breeding program so you get more than one pair, and presumably you can convince that pair to breed, which
Yep.
I know can be a challenge at
Absolutely.
zoos. How do you do that when you've got limited space? You've got a finite space, for instance, at Featherdale, and you think, well, we really need another pair of those,
Yep.
but can we fit them in? How do you juggle all of that?
I love collection management, and it's something that happens every day, and especially every spring when everything breeds. It's a wonderful problem to have when things go well. You can never look at the collection like a stamp collection. You can't just say, I want two of those, two of those, two of those, because that's, I mean, very selfish and a very dangerous way to run a zoo. You've only got finite resources, including space, as you said, so you need to pick your projects. We can't do everything, but what we do get involved in, we do well.
Well, I know I was reading, and I find this extraordinary, that you have some really challenging species at Featherdale,
Yeah,
including
about 250 of them, actually.
but
Yeah.
cassowaries. They
Yep.
are giant birds to have in a space. What are you doing with them?
Oh, look, I love cassowaries. They are frightening. They are just intriguing, and they are one of those ones that learning what they need and then going, oh, okay, we're in Western Sydney, we're not North Queensland. How am I going to do that? It was a huge one. We first bred them in 2005, and it was such a huge undertaking. The female that we actually ended up breeding from, we got in as a chick 8 years prior to that. So you're talking about a generational project. So that first egg was just amazing. But one of the fun challenges, I suppose, is when you get that egg laid. So the female lays an egg, and it's with all radites, it's the males that look after them. In Western Sydney, they're laying eggs when it's still far too cold for the eggs to stay where they're laid. In North Queensland, it's obviously a lot warmer. So what we had to do was collect the eggs as they were laid, take them to an incubator that was only set at 10 degrees, so it wouldn't start incubating, but keep them in basic suspended animation until we had a clutch of 4 ready to go to put under dad. While this was happening, we had to be putting dummy eggs onto a nest that we built to start to trigger the male to say, oh, okay, we're getting close to nesting time. So as one was laid, we'd put a dummy egg under on this nest, and this was an emu egg that was painted bright green to resemble a cassowary egg. And so slowly but surely, we had the 4 fakes, we had the 4 reels sitting aside. He's sitting on these dummies, and we thought, brilliant, this is ready to go. But now we have to get the real ones under dad and take the fake ones out. So, of course, I volunteer with a bucket of real eggs and go and encourage him to come towards me
Can
and
I
away
just
from the
point
nest.
out here to people listening, if you don't know about this, cassowaries can be quite dangerous animals. So
Oh, probably the most dangerous animal we have in the park,
what Chad is talking about is extremely dangerous here. Sorry, keep going.
but also fun. Like this is, like
Fun.
I love it. Like
Okay,
it
yeah.
is a huge challenge. You never do anything cowboyish, but you enjoy those moments when
So
they come.
how did you put the real eggs under Dad? So you're encouraging him to come towards you. How? With food or
Food's the first thing you do. I mean, once a male cassowary decides I am sitting on this nest, he will not move for anything. But if you catch it early in that nesting period, food will still get it. So you encourage him to the front. I go to the back. I sneak around because we set up these sort of visual barriers so he's not quite aware you're there. And you do the switch from fake egg to real egg, and Dad sits happily.
fairly quickly? How quickly did you put those eggs in? Swap them over.
Quick, yeah. That's one of the fastest egg transfers you could see. You could win a medal for it.
And then how do you then simulate tropical conditions for these birds once they're hatched?
Believe it or not, there's not too much tropical that they need. It's not like they need the humidity to survive. It's the food. Being in the wet tropics means that there's a lot more fruit availability. So it's knowing that and knowing that you need to keep up that food.
So what do cassowaries eat down here? I know what they eat in the far north. Is it the same thing? Do you have to sort of get special plums in from native trees for them?
You
or-
do as much replication as you can, but then it is just seasonal tropical fruit that you can get from a supermarket. We have greengrocers that go weekly and do huge deliveries, so they want for nothing.
Yeah, I can't. How much food do you go through at Featherdale in a week for the?
Oh, huge amounts. The fish is probably the biggest, if you're going to say the biggest cost, because there's no such thing as pet grade fish. So it's coming from the fishmonger, and we're choosing the fish that restaurants would choose.
Wow. So what do they get? A bit of flathead or?
Well, you do have to go with seasonal availability, but they do get picky. So, for instance, our little penguin colony will only eat pilchards. They'll supplement a little bit with some whiting and things like that, but they really love the pilchards, and it is a very nutritious fish for them, so they get what they like.
You're listening to Chad Staples. He's the general curator of Featherdale Wildlife Park, and it's part of the evening series called Stuff People Do. And Chad's been a zookeeper for 21 years. Now, it would be remiss of me to not ask about the bird collection. I know it's the biggest in Australia, and some of the conservation programs you're running at Featherdale are pretty amazing. Can you share a couple of those with us?
Well, the most exciting one that we're involved in with the moment, and it's certainly not just us, but it's an Office of Environment and Heritage project through Saving Our Species, and it's the Plains Wanderer. So unfortunately, as is the case with a lot of birds, they don't get that glamour appeal that, say a panda or something like that would. But
So what's a plains wanderer look like for people who don't know?
a very easy description would probably be, imagine a button quail. So, a very small ground-dwelling bird. They can still fly, but they certainly prefer to stay on the ground, but not as plump, a lot more slender. I mean, I think they're spectacular, especially the girls. They're beautiful, but it is, browns and reds and little bits of yellow. So very earthy sort of colours. But taxonomically, this is one of the most important birds in the whole world. It's been listed as probably the fourth most important bird for saving worldwide, and in Australia, right at the top. So
Why is it so important?
well, taxonomically, you're talking about it's a branch on that tree that is not represented anywhere else. So if you lose that branch, it's gone. So when you start talking about ecosystems and the whole planet as a whole, they fill a niche that if it's gone, will never be filled again.
So what are you doing to save them?
So it's a joint project with some major zoos around the country. So it's in its initial stage where we're, in a lot of ways, really trying to learn how to look after this bird. So we have 6 enclosures and we have a male and a female. So we're learning how to breed them. What we've found is that they're pretty easy. It's very similar to a quail that if you give them what they want, they'll mass breed. So lots of eggs, lots of chicks. It's the predators and the habitat that are going to be the big struggle when these things need to go back.
So what do they need for encouragement? A bit of candlelight, a bit of soft music?
The right music, exactly right, at the right time. Very little. These are, I guess they're so opportunistic in the wild that still comes through in captivity. So it's our job to make sure that genetically we're putting the right ones together so that then we're not going to bottleneck ourselves and have this as a short-term project.
And what about the Regent Honeyeater? You're involved with conserving them as well?
Absolutely, we're involved. I mean, we were certainly only a latecomer to it. Taronga Zoo have done fantastic work with that, and we got involved just because of how successful it had been. And they're such a spectacular bird, so we're really proud to be part of the project. But yeah, we're latecomers to that one, whereas with the Plains Wanderers, we jumped in straight away. The Honeyeaters are magnificent. They're so intelligent, and they've learned how to really get at different food items that, I mean, birds are always astound me. The things that they can manipulate to get at for food are really amazing. And they've got this vibrant yellow about them, especially through breeding time. They're a marvellous part of our collection.
So can we expect you, Chad, to spend another 21 years at Featherdale Wildlife Park? For looking
I
at the
certainly hope
enthusiasm
so.
in your
Yeah,
face.
gosh, easily. I hope so.
Well, thank you so much for coming in and chatting to us about being a zookeeper and everything that you're doing at Featherdale.
No, my pleasure.
Fascinating to hear, and I've got to get out and see that bird collection.
Yeah, please do.
Don't worry, I will.
Good.
And I'll expect a grand tour as well.
Absolutely. We'll leave a lot of time there.
All right, I will. Thanks. Chad Staples there, Featherdale Wildlife Park, General Curator